Welcome to the Real Mama Pod. Real ass moms sharing real ass experiences, the things people don't tell you.
Hey, mama, hey.
Hey, mamas. Hey.
How you doing today?
I'm doing swell. How are you?
I am doing excellent. Can't complain.
Okay.
Yes.
We're
I'm
excellent today.
yes, because I'm so excited. We are interviewing my line sister today. So I'm geeked.
Okay.
And I'm geeked because she's so amazing. So
This is going to be a good one.
This is gonna be a great one. She's
Informative
a pediatrician.
one.
Yes, because she's a whole pediatrician, y'all. Like a
Yes.
whole pediatrician, okay? I mean, and she's been a rock star since like birth. Okay, she was a valedictorian in high school. Like, I mean, she graduated with honors at FAMU, went on to Duke, did some things at Yale. Like, I mean, just killing the game.
Smart.
Super smart. I mean, one of the smartest people I know.
Like all these accolades academically.
Yes. And then she's an author. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And she has her own business as well that's for like youth, young African American youth. So we're gonna dive into a lot tonight. A lot.
Hope y'all ready because
Yes.
This is going to be a super informative episode, and I'm happy about it because we all have questions about our kids' health. Like those questions never go away. So
Absolutely.
This is a very needed episode. So I'm happy
Absolutely.
we're talking about it.
When I say I have a doctor on call, legit have a doctor. I was like, Jasmine, help me. What is wrong with my kid? And
I got questions.
She's always so gracious. She's like, okay, calm down. You're fine. What did they say? Okay, yeah, that's fine. You're fine. But anyway, I would like to welcome Dr. Jasmine Weiss to our show.
Welcome.
Hey, loves. How are you all?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you.
We're so happy to have you. You have no idea. So one, I'm super proud of you. Of course, you already know that. And two, just like, thank you so much for joining us tonight. So we're going to get right into it.
All right, let's do it. I'm ready.
Because we have a lot to ask.
You know, Devin has 11 questions. So
absolutely. I'm here for all the questions.
She knows me very well.
Yes, indeed.
So my first question is, what made you choose the path of being a pediatrician?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. And I love to answer this because I actually knew when I was a young child. I actually knew when I was 8 years old that I wanted to become a doctor. And so for me, growing up, I had pretty bad asthma. And so I was always at the doctor. And I just remember like this epiphany, like, ooh, this person always helps me breathe better. Like, I want to help other people do that too. I want to help other people one day. So I kind of had that dream early on and lots of people to support that dream. And that's how I ended up knowing that I wanted to be a pediatrician.
Wow. I love that. So when I was 5, I wanted to be a pediatrician too. And I was on that track until I took organic chemistry. And I was like, oh yeah, this ain't my life. This ain't for me. And I stopped. I changed my major immediately. So
it will deter you. If you ever think about anything science related, you really want to test if that's really what you want to do, take organic chemistry. Obviously, Jasmine made it through so, with honors.
Yes. And to be fair, that course is so hard for so many people. And then realistically, in my daily activity and my daily interactions with patients, I don't use organic chemistry. So, you know, just a weed out course.
It weeded me out. I tell you that. Right. Weed me right on out of there.
Me out of here.
Yeah, I even tried to make them my grade. I took it over in summer courses, still got a C. I was like, that was my only C in college. I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I never got a C in my whole entire life and got a C. That broke me. I was like, yeah, nah, you about to mess up my whole GPA.
This ain't it. So I actually have a question for you, Dr. Weiss. I remember there was a story when I was a kid, and my mom or my grandma said I had a fever, and my grandma was like, take her to the hospital, take her to the hospital. And my dad was like, she don't need to go, give her some Tylenol. And my grandma was like, no, she's going to the hospital. And they sent me home with some Tylenol. And that was it. I said that to say, is there a such thing as taking your child to the doctor too much?
That story, is not uncommon at all. Just so you feel better. I think a lot of parents get worried over fevers, right? And rightfully so. Just to give everybody some knowledge, just to be sure, fever is 100.4. 100.4, right? So if you don't see that number, we're not going to get so worried if it's below that, just for a little bit of knowledge. But what I would say is there's no such thing as taking your child too much. But I will say, if it's a time where you're urgently concerned, it's better to go to be safe than not go, right? So that's always square one. If you're super worried and you're not quite sure what to do, that's what the emergency system is for.
Right.
Same flip side to that is, if you feel like, oh, well, my child's not feeling well, it's a little bit late in the night, but if I call my pediatrician in the morning and I can get in for a visit, if you feel like you can do that, then we're happy to make sure we see sick visits on the same day too, because we want to balance having the opportunity for you all to see your primary care pediatricians and providers with going to the emergency room if it's truly an emergency.
That's good. That's good, because I
for
feel
you
like
explaining what the emergency care system is for. I never knew that. I never
knew. Yeah. And it's something we have to really remind families, because again, when something acutely happens and something's happening and your child is just urgently sick or in distress, naturally you're going to be in distress too. And so we try to counsel our families on, even let's say you come to the doctor and they have a fever, here's what to expect. If they start breathing this way, you should definitely seek emergency care. So we try to have certain discussions based on whatever the problem is going on with the child. But I like to reassure families that if you're ever worried, call 911 or go to the emergency room or urgent care.
Yes, you're definitely really good at that too, because I'm like, should I go? You're like, if you don't feel comfortable, go. That's what we're here for. We're here to service you. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna go.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way. Because you're being here having me feeling crazy, like, you really about to gas? I'm about to go. You can stay here if you want to. So, and even now with COVID, only one parent's allowed anyway. So he just take full advantage. He's like, okay, if you want to go ahead.
Right. And then we do have we also have the nurse hotlines and things for those reasons too. So, whatever office you go to, you can always call the office no matter what time of night, and the nurse can help you triage through and help you decide whether you should stay or go. So that's another resource that we want to make sure our real mamas are aware of.
I have used that resource before. When Eli was like 8 months, he rolled off his changing table. And it was in the wee hours of the morning. I was tired. He needed to be changed. He was crying because I didn't have his passy. I reached to get the passy and boom, he rolls off the table. I was paranoid because I didn't know if he hit his head like too hard or if something else happened. So I called the hotline, and they were able to help me talk through whatever the situation was and let me know if I needed to come in or not. So I have used that hotline before, and it's helpful.
Yeah, excellent. I've never used it. I just go straight to
like, let me call first and see, because I don't like going to that doctor and just sitting there. Like, let me just see. Let me see.
And that's definitely a downside, because the emergency room, you may have a very long wait, and it may be that we can help get you set up so that overnight you can feel at least comfortable enough to make that appointment the next day. So it's a balance though. It's definitely a balance. But I will say this, we as primary care, so I'm a primary care doctor. So, we want to try to be a buffer if we can. But again, like I said, if it's an emergency, go to the emergency room. That's what it's for.
Yeah, that's real. Well, since we're talking about going to the doctor, These daycare germs. These daycare germs, I swear they're going to
kicking all our ass. Everybody's ass is getting kicked by daycare.
Like,
germs.
how do we
Or
combat
preschool
these germs? Like, how do we beat them? Because right now they winning.
Yeah,
they are winning.
They're gonna win. I wish I had better news on the front of daycare germs, but I don't, because really what's happening is our little ones are developing their immune system, right? So they haven't been exposed to all the different viral illnesses that are out there. And so when they go to the doctor or when they go to the daycare and one person's sick with one virus and then they pass it around to everybody's sick. And then they get better 2 or 3 weeks later, and then another virus is introduced and they all sick again, right? So we try to tell families, unfortunately, when they're in daycare, they can have back-to-back illnesses because their immune system just hasn't been exposed yet to the wide variety. And it's overall going to help them boost their immunity and build that immunity up. But it's hard. It's a struggle, It
is. I feel like Eli has had every sickness that could come out of him being in preschool.
Mm-hmm.
Every like ear infections. He's had croup. He's had hand, foot, and mouth. He's had COVID. He's had he has a snotty nose right now. The nose has been snotty for a week. And I'm like, how? We've been in care since last February. We're going on 2 years and you're still snotty nose. He has adenoids removed, or he had his adenoids removed. He has tubes. What else? What else is left? He's giving those germs to us. My nose has never been this snotty since maybe I was a kid. I'm like, I'm grown walking around here with a snotty nose. Why? Because my child has one.
And they don't know how to, we sneeze, we wash our hands, right? Let's hope that all adults know don't sneeze into your hands, sneeze into your arm, right? Let's just hope that's the case. But at the end of the day, our little people are touching each other, they're rubbing snot literally on each other, right? So they just don't have that the personal barriers that we do yet. So they're also just sharing the germs so much more.
They are.
Right. So I remember the first time Drew started daycare, I swear we were out more than he was in. And his pediatrician told me that he could be sick up to, what was it, like 16 to 18 times in 1 year? So you're basically confirming that's true.
Yeah. That's why it's so sad, but not quite much we can do, because especially in the setting of lots of viruses, right? And that's one reason why we try to encourage hand washing and all those things in adults. But like I said, with kids, they just wipe their nose and then give each other a high five, So
the shirt I had on before this recording, snot from here to here. Because who cares where I wipe my nose? It's getting wiped. Right. So whatever I can wipe it on, pillows, couches, your shirt, your pants.
Let's do it.
Don't matter. I'm a walking piece of tissue or wipe. So, Jasmine, I know I'm toggling between Jasmine, Dr. Weiss.
That's just fine.
One thing that's hard, right, for parents to do is figure out what to feed their kids. I know I'm one of those parents. My child is very picky, and it's hard to balance whatever he likes. When he was a baby, those infant stages, and even I'd say even early toddler stage, he would eat stuff. Like we were able to try. He tried everything. And it was not much he didn't like until I guess he formed an opinion. And he was like, no, I don't want that. Don't like it. And I'm not eating it. So for those parents like myself, are there any foods that, kids should avoid in those early years? Like, how can the parent whose child is not eating a healthy diet, like what type of nutritional supplements or what have you do you have any feedback on that? Like what should we be feeding them? What type of diet should they look to have in those early years. I'd say between, let's say 0 years to 4.
So that's a good question. So if you're talking about early on, right, we don't recommend starting like baby foods and pureed foods until 6 months and older, right? So up until that point, the highest recommendation is breast milk, but we know some people have to pump and some people may not want to or choose not to breastfeed. And so obviously formula is next. But when it comes to that early stage, I recommend introducing veggies first, because, it's kind of like you and I, if we had to choose between ice cream and cucumbers, I think everybody naturally would say, oh, I want some ice cream, right? Now, maybe not, but ultimately, I would say it's the same thing. The things that are very, very sweet, that's what they're going to gravitate to. So if you can try to get those veggies in first, even at the earlier stages, when it's pureed foods and baby foods, that's what we recommend. You asked about what we should limit, and specifically we should limit juice, right? Especially, your just sodas and juices and sweet teas. Those things are ultimately just empty calories. They don't really add a lot of nutrition, and then they're bad for our teeth, right? So little ones start having cavities, right? So when it comes down to what not to do, those are kind of that bucket: juices, sweet tea, soda, that kind of thing we shouldn't do as much of. Now, when it comes to how people eat, different families eat differently, right? So it's hard to say exactly, some families are vegan families, some families, choose to eat meat or whatever you may be, but whole foods are always going to be better, your foods that you're cooking versus your processed foods, your fried foods. I know McDonald's is easy. I know it's easy. But if you kids make the best swaps you can, even at McDonald's, the healthier swaps that you can make are better, even for your children. Now, picky eating, what I like to tell families is, what I look at as a pediatrician is how they're growing. And I look at those growth curves, right? So we look at their weight curve, we look at that length curve. And all in all, if they're tracking along the line that they've been tracking along and they're not dipping off, even if they're being more picky, it's still okay because they're getting the amount of nutrition that they need to grow. So I try not to worry. I try to tell our families, don't worry too much. I know it's not great if they never want fruits and veggies, right? But in that case, try to sneak them in when you can. Sneak the spinach in a smoothie, when you can. Sneak the spinach in spaghetti sauce. Let it wilt when you can, right? It don't work. Didn't work for you.
Let me tell y'all this real quick. So me and my sneaky ass, right? I tried to make Eli some, I guess we'll call them Incredible Hulk pancakes. Those pancakes had spinach in them. And when I put that plate in front of him, he looked at me like, do you think I'm a fool? I'm not eating this. And what did I do? Pop an Eggo in the waffle because I didn't have time to go back and forth. I tried my best. And let me those pancakes were not easy to make. I found a recipe. I used fresh ingredients, a process, and he did not care about mommy's efforts. He said, no. He said, no want. That's when he said, don't want. He hit me with a don't want. So I've tried that, Jasmine. But he's growing. He really is. He's physically, right? And he's expanding his palate a little more. So we're slowly but surely getting there.
Yeah. And keep trying, right? There's a whole bunch of different vegetables to try. So you never know which ones he'll like. And same with fruits. He'll never know which ones. But high fiber foods are just so helpful because they add, you get the water that's in the fruits and it helps them with staying regular. So
yeah,
that's true.
And he eats better when he's with my parents. Like my mom will call me, you should get that boy. And I'm like, actually, I've tried that. He's not eating it. And she said, well, he's eating it with me. And I'm like, well, sorry. He doesn't eat it with me. So I don't know what to do.
Right.
But
that's funny. And I'm sure your mom was like rubbing that in your face. So
of course, because she's granny and but we're not gonna go down that rabbit hole.
No, we're not. So So that's hilarious. Okay, so let's talk developmental milestones, right? When should because sometimes I feel like parents can get stuck in like comparing kids and not realizing that it's like a range of when kids can actually meet the developmental milestones. So when should parents start like voicing concerns if their child, because some kids don't crawl, they go straight to walking, but like aren't like talking or have enough words or walking, crawling, those major ones. When should they start voicing concerns around that?
That's a good question. And you absolutely nailed it, right? It's a range. And we know that it's a range. And when we're evaluating children regularly, if they haven't met a certain milestone yet, what we do a lot of times, and we just watch. We just watch and wait again to see, they may hit that milestone a few months later than others. Right. And so what we like to tell families is every child is different, right? Even if older sister or older brother did something at a certain time, this child is going to do it in his or her own time. So just be patient, but still be vigilant. And so when we evaluate children, some of the reasons why we see them so many times those first few years is because we do want to keep an eye on how they're developing, how their speech is developing, how their motor skills are developing. And so most times when you go to the pediatrician, they have different surveys that they give. And a lot of times they're asking, what has the child done from a language perspective, from a gross motor perspective, meaning like, the walking, the running, the hopping, and even a fine motor perspective. Are they meeting all the milestones with the fine fingers? And so we are evaluating on a regular basis. And then we need your input to say, hey, I do think, at this stage, we expect them to be a little bit further along. Let's see if we need to do a referral to speech therapy, or let's see if we need to even do a referral to our developmental behavioral pediatricians and colleagues to see if we need to do further evaluation. So we're constantly making sure we are attentive to all of those big buckets of milestones, and we need your input though. So we definitely appreciate when a mother or father or caregiver says, hey, I'm a bit concerned because XYZ, and that's when we can explore it further.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's the best way a parent can advocate for their child if they really feel like something is wrong and, their concerns, they really want them to be heard and considered? What's the best way parents can advocate?
That's a great question. So the first step is talking with your pediatrician or your provider, making sure you share your concerns, right? If you have concerns over a long period of time, I like to tell families, just write down what you saw, or kind of keep track of what you're seeing, or take a little video, because that really truly helps us even in the office when you say, I've noticed this is happening and I keep catching it on video. Would you mind at least looking? And we can then go from there because we have more data to use.
Right.
So I say gather as much data as you can, but don't worry yourself. Now there's a balance between worrying yourself and losing sleep, and making sure you're at least making sure you get as much information as you can to help us along too, because we want to be a team. And so I also say, if you're feeling like you're not getting the answers you want or what you need, make sure you advocate and say, hey, you can choose the doctors you see, you can choose the practices you go to, and do what's best for your child and what you feel makes you comfortable. Because at the end of the day, that's the most important, that you feel like you have a good partnership with the providers that you see and the physicians that you see.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So I know some of my friends who participated in, I don't know if you call it like delayed vaccination, and so for example, instead of getting a Hep B shot right when in the hospital, right? They're waiting to like later because based on some research they saw, like Hep B is more prevalent later in years and things like that. So what is a good balance for a mom who may have heard that or researched that and is torn in between of like getting the Hep B shot right away or not. Like, what do you think? Like, what would you tell that mom? Because I know that question comes up a lot in our baby group that we have.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I would still recommend it in the hospital before they leave. But we also, as pediatricians, we're going to give them another dose of hepatitis B at that 2-month visit.
Okay.
And so, you know, I always say it's okay to look at Google and do your own research. We want that. But then come back to us and let us know what your concerns are, and we can help you address it, because we're following recommendations that have really been tried and true. And they do have what we call it a catch-up vaccine schedule, right? Because sometimes families just can't always make it for certain visits, and they do get behind. So we even have a backup schedule that we know to follow if a patient is behind on their vaccines. But what I will say is, I like to tell people, when I was a resident, I remember having a supervising doctor, or what we call an attending, who used to talk about how some of the diseases that used to just fill the ICUs up with patients who were severely ill, I never even saw in training at all, because vaccines have truly helped to eliminate some of those things. And I don't know if you all can remember back, but I had chickenpox growing up. I don't know did you all have chickenpox growing up?
I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
Didn't get it?
No.
Good. Did y'all know people who got it though?
Yeah, my sisters, everybody got it, and I didn't get it. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Cousins, I think my brother had it. I don't know. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah. And so now, we have that varicella vaccine, and now it's very rare for a vaccinated child to get varicella. Now we still see cases for different reasons, but it's just so much more of a lower, less individuals, less children having chickenpox. So again, we want you to do your own research, but come talk with us and we'll have a good conversation and try to help you come to a sound decision.
I love that. And I love you. That openness.
Kids aren't getting chickenpox no more. Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't think about. No, it's okay. But now that you say that, my train of thought changed. But yeah, you're right. You don't see chickenpox.
You don't see it.
I didn't.
Now we're seeing monkeypox. Like, can we get rid of that shit?
Now that I do not want no monkeypox. No.
Yes.
Don't want the monkeypox.
Because maybe we need to bring the chickenpox back and trade it for the monkeypox. I don't know.
We don't want no pox.
No pox. No mumps, no lumps, no nothing. Jesus.
Don't want the pox.
Absolutely.
Whether I don't care what animal they come from, I don't want them. No pox.
None of it. Chicken, monkey, whoever. You're right, because they don't all got animal names. Yeah.
Sheep, lions.
But you know what? Let's not name them. Because we don't want them to come.
Cows.
Nope.
But I hope, for the patients who do have them right now, monkeypox, I hope they're doing all right. There's a lot of stigma around that too. Yeah, we are.
Warm hugs, thoughts and love. Seriously.
Yeah, we're praying for y'all.
So I have a question. I know that me and Devin actually did an episode in August, and we asked a question about, like, what is some stuff you wish you knew, right? As becoming a parent. So are there any like really like hardcore, important, pertinent facts that you wish you could share with any parent, like that relates to the health and quality of their kids' health?
That's a really good question. So
development.
Many things.
Yeah. Anything that's on your heart.
It's so many things. I think I'm going to take a kind of a turn and talk about reading, because we don't realize how important reading is to child development. And so we really, really advocate for reading to children really from birth, right? And we're talking about everything you're reading, anything you're reading, magazines, books. It doesn't have to always be children's focus. Just reading out loud is so important, because we know that, especially in our communities, children are just less likely to be on reading level, even by 3rd grade. And we know what that means for outcomes for high school graduation and ultimately for impacting your health, right? And so I I want to take away that even the small thing like that, even if it's 5 minutes a day, even if it's in the bathtub while the kids bopping around and splashing around, at least you're giving them some tools that they'll be able to use in the future. So that's one big one. And then I will say, enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. I think a lot of times when we think about our children in developing, it's a lot of worry and angst, but it's not always going to be that your child is really young, right? And you're having those moments and experiences. And so take the time to really enjoy it and soak it up, because eventually they're going to be the teenager who I'm asking the parent to leave out the room so I can talk to. And then they can, spill their guts to me about all the stuff they don't want to share with anybody else.
I know.
So enjoy the journey is something else I would want to share.
That was good. That was some good
is.
takeaways. That was some good takeaways. I do have one last question before we dive into your other ventures. So, sometimes in our community, like there's a bad rep with doctors and hospitals and things like that. Like, how do we close that gap? Like, how do we all get on the same page? Like, what can we do as a whole? Like all of us, the hospitals, the doctors, the people, everybody. Like, how can we just come together?
Yeah. So that's a good question. And I really, I value that question on a professional level too, because you're right. The mistrust over the years, right, over the just decades, right, of mistreatment and all of the different, we all know about the Tuskegee experiment. It's not nothing that we haven't heard of before. We've all had grandparents and great grandparents. Oh, I ain't going down to the doctor. And a lot of that's truly valid and warranted, right? The lack of care that our grandparents and great grandparents received at certain institutions, the segregation, it's just been passed down. And so what I like to share is it's one of the reasons we need more Black doctors, right? It's one of the reasons we need more Black professionals, simply because when you can relate to the person who you're talking with and you can feel like they know you on a deeper level, right? Because I feel like right now, I feel like I'm talking to my cousins, right? Clearly, I'm talking to my line sister and friends, but in some ways, we have a common shared experience, so it just lowers the tension and helps you develop rapport easier. And so, what I like to share is it's one of the reasons why I advocate so hard for increasing representation in medicine. But then I also like to tell patients to find that trusted advocate for you. Right. And find those advocacy groups that you feel confident in, and then find that provider, no matter what their nationality or ethnicity or sexuality is, find that person you trust, because at the end of the day, no matter what those, demographic characteristics are, we do want to make sure we're providing equitable care, and we got a long way to go to do that.
Right.
We got a long way to do.
I'm glad you said that, because sometimes just because someone's the same race as you, they may not be for you. They may not be a good physician. And I think sometimes people forget that or get confused about that, because I've had Black doctors who were not good. And that's not really talked about a lot. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I'm glad you said that. You have to figure out who works for you. It doesn't matter the race, doesn't matter the sex, it doesn't matter, because I actually prefer a male OBGYN over a female based on my experiences. So it's just, it really doesn't matter anything. Any of that stuff doesn't matter. It's just how they take care of you and how are they going to advocate for you and making sure that you can be the best person that you can be. So I'm glad you said that.
Absolutely. And it's, we know about the disparities. So there's just so many disparities in different diseases. We can just look right at COVID, right? How it just really drastically impacted our communities. And so we do, even with that being said, of needing to continue to make sure we have a diverse group of physicians and providers across the board, nurses, PAs, physician assistants, whatever the case may be, anesthesiologists, whatever, CNAs, medical assistants. I don't want to leave nobody out, right? We need to be diverse across the board, but we also got to make sure we are being focused and vigilant about the communities that are really suffering, right?
Yeah.
And so, like I said, we got a long way to go, but it's a lot of good people working on it and have been working on it for decades. So,
right. All right.
Awesome.
Well, that was great. I love that. I feel like that was very informative. I think our listeners are going to really have some takeaways from all the information that you provided. And you are this busy pediatrician, right? And you are literally helping families every day, and you still finding time to become a whole author, to have your own LLC, I Dream Enterprise LLC, and working within the community and with, just providing services for people who may not have a voice. So we really want to dive into that and talk about that more. We have your book here. It's so, I don't know if you guys can, but
yes,
little girl.
yes, I got my
little afro.
So yes, let's talk about that. Like, what made you become an author? Like, let's just dive in. Just let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm so excited about Cammie. The story is called "What Will Cammie E Be?" And I chose to really be an author because I felt like, as a pediatrician, again, it comes back to how do I not only care for children, but how can I inspire them, right? And it comes in so many different forms. I hear families tell me all the time, I'm just glad to see you. Like, that's number one. I'm just glad to see you. But how else can we make sure that our children are really dreaming big? And that's really what the inspiration for my story is all about.
Wow.
And so I actually wrote Cammie, like I actually still have the notebook where I wrote like the first draft of the story. And I actually wrote it as a resident at Emory. So after Duke, I went to Emory for my residency training and stayed around there and did an extra year as a chief resident. And during that time, I wrote the story.
Y'all see a whole chief resident. Yeah.
Accolades now.
Yeah, and that helped. That's a whole nother story of the leadership that brought on. But I think for me, I wanted to do something that would be unique and creative, and that could still get the messaging across that we can do whatever we want to do, and our children can really be whatever they want to be. So that's the inspiration.
I love that. And we'll have this book on our social media, of course, and then we'll have the link in our show notes as well. So definitely support the book. It's super fun. It's super cute. Your kids are going to love it. Drew and Jay really enjoys reading it. So yes, get the book, y'all. And then tell us more about I Dream Enterprise and what you're doing with that, and how that came about, what made you even start such a business. Like, give us all the tea.
Yes. So I Dream is very similar. It's based on my life experiences, right? So you go from FAMU, which is obviously the best HBCU, right? You go from you get to have those experiences as a pre-med. And I've always carried that with me. And as a med student and as a resident and even as a fellow, like you mentioned, you just see the different challenges and struggles for trainees and for students who are trying to learn about the process, right? And so, like, I remember, even though I always knew I wanted to be a pediatrician, I didn't know any, but personally, right? I had amazing parents who were super inspirational and always supportive. And I had an aunt who was a pharmacist and a cousin who was a nurse, but no doctors, right? So just trying to figure out, all right, how do you actually go about doing this? It's something that, you had to navigate on your own. And so with I Dream, our goal is to first really provide career exposure, right? So our mission really is to help Black students to pursue impactful health careers. And we do that by helping to connect students with healthcare professionals from a wide variety of professions that they may not commonly see.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we have these health career boot camps, and our next one's coming really soon here. We're right on the doorstep of it. And what we do is, for a period of weeks, we have live virtual sessions where students really from all across the country log in, and they listen in on a conversation with a health professional, but then they get to go through a medical case with the professional.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so we have we had such an amazing, our first camp was 10 weeks. And so we had Black doctors, Black nurses, Black pharmacists, Black optometrists, and just really seeing how, we're not just talking about, let's just say one of the cases was some eye exams, right? And we're trying to teach children about optometrists, right? You think lens crafters or Target Optical, you're just getting glasses, but optometrists are doing a lot of different stuff. And so when we're showing the back of the eye exams to the students, they're like, oh snap, this is what happens with diabetes. Like, oh, I need to tell my girl about to go get her eyes checked, right? So it's a full kind of experience where they're learning about the profession, they're learning about some medicine and helping their own health literacy. And then we also teach them about the academic roadmap and what they need to do to be successful as applicants. It's a full comprehensive program.
I love that.
That is amazing. I'm gonna have to share this with Jonathan. That's my husband. And maybe we can talk offline about that. But he's a psychologist and works with children on the autism spectrum. And I know he's talked about like how he wished he had resources just so that he can holistically understand what his process would look like before starting college, before having to go to graduate school and knowing that you have to go to graduate school, the application process for a PhD, the process for obtaining your PhD, and all the clinical training he had to do, the internship, what is it after internship? Postdoc. And it's just so much, and even the process of getting licensed. So all these layers to accomplishing this goal, it's like you're going in blindly, not knowing that you got all this stuff to do, right? And you're just trucking along until someone tells you, okay, you're done, right? So that's amazing that you have that resource out there for folks who we needed it, right? So
I think being a first generation college student, like I had no idea. I knew I was going to college, but I can't even fathom like picking a major. Like I went in for pre-med, right? But I didn't really know what that meant, right? I just know show up for class. I didn't understand a lot of things until I got there and did it because I had no one to tell me. No one knew. They just said go. And it's like, okay.
Just go. It's that time.
And I'm like, okay, well, I want to change my major. Okay, let me go over here. Okay. So it's just like, you just like, but being able to have that laid out, I think that would really help those students, especially in the med field, because that's so confusing too. Because when you think about it, when you're 8, right? Or even a high school student, I want to be a doctor. You don't realize all the things you have to do. You think you just have to do your 8 years and you're a doctor. You have to do residency, all kinds of stuff that you had to do, and it's just like, knowing what it is up front, I think it will be extremely helpful. So we are definitely sharing this out to everyone we know. All the information will be on our page as well. In the description box. Jasmine's going to get all that information over to us. And you do this a couple of times a year, right?
Yeah, we do it a couple of times a year. So this upcoming camp, we're actually going to have the intersection of health careers and sports, because what we're finding, we're finding that our young Black males especially are just their numbers are decreasing or either staying stagnant in terms of getting into medicine. And we have, so we have an amazing lineup. We have some great sponsoring institutions. So, one of the things is, as a businesswoman, right? Because I'm trying to figure out, how do you create a sustainable enterprise? How do you make sure you're giving this service to everyone who needs it, but also creating a sustainable venture that you can then hire people and provide internships and scholarships, because that's what we really are all about. And so, we have opportunities for schools to purchase for their students. Student groups can purchase, and then we have sponsored spots basically as well. So we're really working hard to fire
this is going to be a blessing to so many, and we have a lot of teacher listeners, and I'm sure they will pass this along to their students and things like that. So I'm excited for this. And maybe we need
Yes.
to figure out some type of partnership as well, where we can kind of
Yeah.
funnel people to you as well, because this is definitely needed.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. And the beauty
So,
of it is it doesn't matter where you are, right? Because that's
mhm,
a big limitation. And one of the reasons I did this is because if you're nearby a med school, you might have different opportunities that if you don't live in proximity to a med school, or you just don't know what they have available for students in high school or college, then you might just be missing out on opportunities. So this
right.
allows you to be anywhere in the country, really anywhere in the world, and participate in our boot camp and on our online platform, because we do have online access too.
I love
That is
it all.
amazing. I'm here for it.
Yes,
For sure.
And so before I jump though, I forgot to say about Cammie.
Yeah, tell
So
us more about Cammie, girl.
so
Her little
Cammie to
puffs.
me, yeah, and her little puffs are really an extension of, I won't just say the health careers boot camp, because at that stage, especially elementary school where the book targets, we're trying to have children think about being everything, right?
Mhm,
And so she's on top of the world, and I mean that quite
mhm,
literally at some points. And
mhm.
so for younger children, even if you don't have a high school or college student, iDream is just going to be over time something that develops for children of all ages. So
Right.
Cammie's a part
Oh
of
my
that.
gosh. I love that.
The
I
message
love it.
behind it all, the intention behind it all.
And it started all from an 8-year-old dreaming. And look at that.
Yes,
Going
Look
to
what this
get her
turned
yes,
asthma
into.
checked out.
Right. Getting her
exactly.
asthma, tired of going to the doctor, and
Better
became the
yet,
doctor.
as a preemie, I was a preemie baby, so it started as a
Wow.
preemie. Yeah.
Wow.
Let me find out. My son was a preemie. Let me find out he about to be a pediatrician.
Yeah, he could be a whole pediatrician out here.
Oh,
Oh,
Cammie and Eli. Eli and Kid
Yes.
sitting in the tree.
oh, hush. Oh,
Oh, well, this was a joy. This was a pleasure. This is so refreshing.
it
Um,
was.
we've learned
Yes,
so
yes.
much. You're so knowledgeable. You already know how I feel about you. But seriously, thank you for dropping so many gems tonight and being a resource, most importantly. Like,
Yes,
you are a whole
yes.
resource. And so I'm so excited to share. And if people can't get in October, we can work on ways to get them in the next round, So this seems like it's going to be an ongoing thing. So it's not going to stop in October. So if you don't have your stuff ready by the October deadline, that is okay. There are going to be other opportunities.
Yes. Our spring, we already planning. It'll be allied health professions. So
Okay, I love that.
so medical technician, surgical technician, speech therapy, those types of phenomenal careers as well. Because it's really, we're needed at every level. So
yeah, absolutely. I was on Instagram scrolling like I do sometimes, and I saw this surgical technician. She was making like $200,000 a year. I said, what? Do I need to go learn how to use these tools? Like, what is going on?
And friend, you can't just slide up in the surgical technician field. You got to retake organic.
I'll do that.
You got to too, and calculus and physics, all those classes.
Well, my brain work a little better now. I might be able to do a little thing or two.
Love that.
I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm not passing.
I'm joking. I'm done with school. I can't.
I can write
I'm
you
done with school
all
too.
day, but organic chemistry, physics,
Yeah,
no.
I'm done.
Yeah.
But it was tempting when she said $200,000. It was very tempting. So yes, Jasmine and Dr. Weiss and author and founder and everything else.
Business owner.
Right. Everything. We definitely enjoyed you, and we'll be sure to have you back for sure.
Awesome.
I'll
be happy to come back.
Information.
Yes, so, let us know, and we'll have all this in the description box too. But just for those who are listening who may want it right now, let us know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram as my name, Jasmine Weiss, Weiss is how you spell it. And then my company is called I Dream to Be on Instagram, on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. So, and then our website. So if you're looking for Cami, the website is idream2read.com. So they can go and learn all about Cami there. And then if you're looking for the Health Careers Bootcamp, it's idream2be.com, be.com. So idream2read.com, idream2be.com.
Awesome.
Love it. Love it.
Yes,
So
yes.
clever. So clever. Well, are you sticking around or are you heading out?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick
All
around for a little
right.
bit.
Okay, awesome. So all that doctor talk, all that author talk and entrepreneurship, it's time for some mama juice.
Oh,
So
yeah.
friend, what we drinking?
So y'all know I'm always coming with meaning. So I have 2 meanings for today's drink. One, it's called Apple a Day. And can you tell me why it's called Apple a Day? Because
it keeps the doctor away.
Yes, that's the name of the drink. It's called Apple a Day. And it's in shot form because guess what? Where do we go to the doctor to do? Get shots when we're young. So that's why I said there are 2 meanings behind this drink. I'm not about to take a shot on these folks' YouTube, but I will sip my drink. But it has an ounce of apple cider, or if you don't have apple cider, you can use apple juice. It has an ounce of bourbon, and it has 1.5 ounces of butterscotch schnapps. And as you can see, I put a little garnish, which is a cinnamon stick in mine, which gives a little extra flavor. But if you are a mama who's expecting, or if you're just a mama who doesn't drink, you can have it in mocktail form. And you can have an ounce of apple cider or apple juice, and you can add 1.5 ounces of cinnamon simple syrup. And it's called Apple a Day. And it's in shot form.
Oh, cute. I love that. And Jasmine, Dr. Weiss will be drinking the non-alcoholic one.
I'll do the mocktail. Let's go.
She'll do the mocktail. Yes. So it is time for Mama's Corner. So Mama's Corner is my favorite part of the show. And that's when we get a chance to connect with our listeners. So you can write us and you can vent about your child if you want to. You can give us feedback about how we're doing or what you want to see or what you want to hear. You can seek advice. I mean, we're no experts. We can tell you what we think based off our experiences. But we love this because this is the Real Mama Pod. We are in this together. So we kind of figure out this mamahood journey together. So this is why I love it. I check the emails every week to see if we have letters, and you guys have been definitely writing in. Ever since I said we'll keep everyone anonymous, like the letters have been flowing. So I should have done that from day one. So we actually have a mama who wrote in, and I'm pulling it up now.
Okay.
And it says, "Hey mamas, I love the back to school episode you guys did a few weeks ago. My kiddo is having a difficult time with transitioning to school. Help." So I guess they're having a difficult time entering the school building. I didn't really say, I didn't give too much detail, but you have any advice? Okay.
Transitioning. So one thing I've learned, because I've worked in school settings before, particularly in preschool, and sometimes kids are going to have a hard time with transitions, especially if they are transitioning to a new classroom. I don't know what dynamic is that's going on with this mama, but if they're transitioning to a new classroom, there's so much they have to adjust to: new teacher, new friends, new environment, having to learn whatever the system is in that classroom. It's a lot, right? So they may act out, they may shut down, they may, who knows how they may respond, right? So just understanding that there are so many changes that are happening that can affect the way they behave, whether that's in a positive or negative way, and I'm putting negative in quotes. And just understanding that this is a transition. Like, how do we respond when we're in transition? Right. We don't always respond the best way. So just understanding that they're having to adapt to whatever the world is giving them at that moment. So that's totally normal and it's okay. It's just having those conversations with your child, making them feel comfortable, making sure their teacher understands how they're feeling, understanding what is the school doing to help with those transitions, asking those questions on the front end. So it's okay, mama, if your child is having a transition and it may be a little difficult, that's totally fine and that's normal. It happens to a lot of kiddos.
Dr. Weiss, do you have any input about that? I know it's probably rough for kids to like transition into your office sometimes, or some kids may be afraid of the doctor, stuff like that. Yeah. Do you have any input about for this, mama?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you already nailed it, Kendra. I think if you just try to be as patient as you can, because a lot of times what happens is as parents or caregivers in general, they get emotional too, right? So you see the emotions in your child and that kind of evokes the emotions in you and can create frustration, tension, anger even, right? Which is what we want to try to avoid. So just recognizing that it's, like you said, so very new for them and that it's going to be an experience and take time. So just being gentle as much as you can with the transition and knowing that it'll get better with time and practice. So absolutely. Time.
Yeah, time is key. So actually Jay still has a difficult time transitioning into his new class. And so a few things I try to do is we have we do our positive affirmations in the morning. And it's just 3 things we say: I am brave, I am strong, I'm smart, 4 things. I can be anything I want to be. And we kind of remix it and we have fun in the morning and we're like racing to the door, like we're making it really fun. And then once we get in the building, we do, today's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. And it gets him so hyped. And I'm like, we're going to be kind to our friends and nice to our teachers. And his teacher is ready when he's entering the building. Thankfully, he's usually the first or second kid that enters because he has to be there so early. And she's able to get on his level and kind of talk to him and give him that one-on-one attention. And by the time I'm hitting the door to like leave, I can hear him not crying anymore. So, don't feed into the tantrum or the crying or whatever. Just try to be as positive as you can because they're going to feed off that energy. If you pay them attention, and I know we want to because those are our babies. Don't get me wrong. You want to hug them and stay in there and all that stuff. But they have to realize, like, mommy has to go to work or daddy has to go to work. You have to be here. This is your responsibility. And if you keep that consistent enough, eventually they'll kind of grow out of it. I don't know when Jay's going to stop, but I mean, it's not for 10 minutes anymore. It's more like 30 seconds. So, we're gradually getting there. Yeah, it's progress. So, and now it's just like a little whine. It's like, don't leave. It's like a little fake. And I'm like, bye, Jay. Have a good day. Love you. So, yeah, don't be hard on yourself. What'd you say?
I said that was a good question. Shout out to them.
Yeah. And we have a whole doctor here to help us answer. So, yeah, I try to be strategic when we get the listening letters based on what interviews we have lined up. Oh, this would be a good question for this. Just like Ken put thought into the drinks, I try to put thought into how we ask the questions.
I love it. The duo. I love the duo.
Personality. Yes.
Well,
absolutely.
Friend, so how can they find us on social?
We are at The Real Mama Pod on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you are interested in seeing what's going on in my life, you can follow me on Instagram at Kendra Ferg _, and that's KENDRAFERG
And you can follow me at DevGrace _ that's DEVGRACE _ can't even spell my own name. And that's on Instagram. That's really the only social media I'm on. And then if you want to write us for Mama's Corner, you can email us at mama@therealmamapod.com. You can check out our website for Mama merch and Auntie merch coming in September. Yeah, this will air in October. So yeah, Mama Auntie merch will be on there, and then review us. Please review us wherever you stream your podcast. Even on YouTube, we're on YouTube now. You guys want a YouTube? Now we're here. So review us, rate us, share with your friends, your aunties, your mamas, whoever. Thank you so much for growing with us. And until next time, have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Tell you.